Message in a bourbon bottle.
Welcome to a new show. It's Message in a Bourbon Bottle, as we've been promising for about a month now. Going to kind of have to find our footing for this new series, right? But the idea is someone submits a question. These first few episodes will probably be exclusively from Patreon, because that's where we went to get some first questions for this series. But you can also leave comments in previous episodes, like this one right here, or you can email us. It's itsbourbonnight@gmail.com. But please put Message in a Bourbon Bottle in that description so we can keep them all together. Not sure if this show is going to be sort of one question per episode, or maybe if it's a longer one, it will be. And if it's shorter ones, maybe it'll be two. Maybe I'll answer the first one, and then the other Chad will answer the second one. Or maybe one week it'll just be me, the next week it'll be just him. But let's get that first Message in a Bourbon Bottle.
I hope that we get you. I hope that we get you. I hope that we get you.
I need to work on this part.
Message in a bourbon bottle. Yeah.
And here it is. It's in a Penelope bottle. See what we got here. Hey Chads, with all the attention wheated bourbons have been getting lately, I was wondering what your take on Penelope coming out with a wheated bourbon that has rye in it. Can they do that? And that is from Todd C on Patreon. No, wait, that's a little too obvious. Let's call him T. Cooper. Yeah. Thanks, T. Cooper. For those who haven't heard, Penelope came out with a wheated bourbon not too long ago that's actually stated on the front of the label as also a 4-grain. The mash bill being 74% corn, 16% wheat, 7% rye, and 3% malted barley. A quick read of BreakingBourbon.com points out, one notable aspect of Penelope Wheated is its almost identical mash bill with Penelope 4-grain. The only difference is the wheated bourbon has 1% less corn and 1% more wheat versus the derived mash bill from the brand's 4-grain bourbon. Some other facts are it's 95 proof and sells for around $40. But back to the question here, this has rye in the mash bill, so can they do that? Short answer is yes. Now, to kind of get my reasoning behind that, yes, we gotta sort of kind of talk about bourbon itself. Bourbon is a very regimented substance, right? We're talking about bottled and bond. There's no stricter rules for what makes a liquor bottled and bond, right? For bourbon, of course, it has to be 51% corn, has to be product of the United States, has to be stored in a charred oak container, cannot come off the still more at 160 proof, cannot go into the barrel higher than 125 proof, has to be bottled over 80 proof. So there's a lot of laws that you have to follow to make whiskey, bourbon whiskey. But there's a lot of other things in the bourbon world that you don't have to follow so strictly because they're not really, there's not really a definition to them. Like small batch. What is small batch? Could be 1,000 batches. Could be theoretically 100,000, not batches, barrels. 100,000 barrels that go into a small batch, and it can still be called a small batch. The smallest batch is, of course, 1 barrel. 1 barrel is the smallest batch. Even the term single barrel. You can still have original distillate in that barrel, regauge it up. We talked about this about a month ago in an episode. If you haven't seen it, click up here or something. Here, I think, to watch that. You can regauge it as long as it was never officially dumped. It was just more space was created because of the angel share. That's still a single barrel. When it is dumped, you can say that's a single barrel. Now you have to adjust your age if you added in younger stuff. But anyway, that's sort of getting off topic here. The point that I'm trying to make anyway is the same thing with wheated bourbon. We all think it's the absence of rye because typically what is known as a traditional bourbon mash bill is corn as the largest percentage of the mash bill, so at least 51%, right? Then A traditional bourbon mash bill is rye as the secondary grain, also known as the flavoring grain. And then the third grain is typically barley, and it's typically malted barley. So most people think for it to be wheated bourbon, the rye has to be out of that mash bill, and wheat has to be the secondary grain or the flavoring grain, although wheat just really allows the sweetness of the corn to show through. So it's really the secondary grain. So if wheat is the secondary grain, then yeah, it's a wheated bourbon. I mean, you think of a rye bourbon, you typically don't call them rye bourbons unless you're trying to differentiate that between a wheated or, I guess technically a 4-grain, which I think becomes the argument, right, for a lot of people. Well, that's technically 4-grain. And yes, you are correct, but what else is it also? It's also, if wheat is a secondary grain, it's also a wheated bourbon. I mean, as long as it's following all the rules of bourbon, you can have corn and then a second grain, and then that's it. Not even have malted barley. You could have corn and malted barley, and it'd be a bourbon as long as you're following all the laws of bourbon. So what about it exactly doesn't make it a wheated bourbon? It's just that inclusion of rye? Is that what we're saying? No, it's just because that's what we've been used to, right? But who's to say that's a rule? That's a law? I mean, nobody, because it's not. So yes, Penelope having a wheated bourbon that's technically a 4-grain is true, but is it a wheated bourbon? Yes, because what law, what rule are they breaking that says that it's not? So yeah, it is a wheated 4-grain, technically. Yeah, I mean, 4-grain in itself. Let's talk about that. 4-grain. What is a 4-grain? What are the 4 grains? What do they, by law, by rule, have to be? I mean, typically, it's going to be corn, rye, wheat, and malted barley. But could it be corn, buckwheat, or rice, or I'm trying to think of some other funky things that some of these experimental mash bills have been. But, could it be off the wall other grains as long as corn is the majority of the mash bill? Yeah, and it could still be a 4-grain. I mean, we don't call traditional mash bills or even wheated bourbons 3 grains, do we? We say, oh, Weller, that's a great 3-grain wheater. Or, Wild Turkey. Love that 3-grain. That 3-grain rye bourbon. It's good. No, we don't. I mean, do you? That's kind of weird. If you do, it's fine. It's technically accurate. But we should talk. So, yeah, it's just what we get used to. And we've just gotten used to wheated bourbons not having rye and having wheat instead. But that's not what it has to be. Are we going to start seeing rye bourbon? I guess we do already see high rye, right? Listed and described as things like the bakers had a high rye or higher than their normal, what would be considered high rye. But then, see, there's that other thing. There's nothing that defines what is high rye. You go to Buffalo Trace, their high rye version is going to be different than, say, Four Roses or Bullet, who has things in the high 30% of rye. Like it's a, barely legal bourbon, which is Dark Arts, right? They have a barely legal 51% corn. And I can't remember off the top of my head if the complete rest of it is all rye, 49% rye. I want to say it is. Again, no malted barley, I think. I'll have to fact check myself here. But, in short, Penelope, wheated bourbon is a wheated bourbon. Okay. So that was the first episode. I feel like that was one of the longer questions. So I think we will cap it there. But let us know. We want to know your feedback. This is like the pilot episode. No, I think you should do 2 questions an episode, even if it makes the episode 20 minutes. Who cares? We want more. Just let us know. As I said in the beginning, we're going to be fine-tuning this thing as we're kind of finding our footing and making little tweaks here and there to make it better. But let us know down in the comments what you thought about it. And then also if you have other questions, or also if you find comments in other videos that you want to highlight, that you would like either myself or Chad Watson to comment on and to kind of expand upon and go deeper into, just copy and paste. But if you do that, please like cite the person. Be like, so-and-so, Jim Bob said this statement. What do you think about that? Can you comment on it? Yeah. So in the comments or itsbourbonnight@gmail.com. Just let us know either way. Well, hey, that was the episode. Just want to say thanks to Patreon, because that's where we mine our first batch of questions. Patrons, of course, get priority in having their question answered. So consider becoming a patron if you like at patreon.com/itsbourbonnight. Lots of other perks there that they get. Also, this episode brought to you by whiskyambitions.com. It's where you can get the t-shirt that I'm wearing and hat, and normally, our glassware. Don't have any right now, but lots of other cool things that we'd like for you to check out at whiskyambitions.com. But hey, that's where we better leave it. If you haven't subscribed to us already, you can do so by clicking. I'm going to put it up here, right over here. There's suggestions of other videos down here. Hope to see you over there in one of those. Until next time, drink more bourbon.
I hope that we get your message in a bourbon bottle.